Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's June the 2nd, 2023. I'm Eric Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined by the full crew this morning. We got managing editor Matt Shodell. We got Stephen Wagner and the great Zuby Charles. We're playing Hollywood Squares this morning on a Friday morning as the weekend gets here. And guys, I'm going to start with something that I thought was kind of really cool. Okay, I'm going to throw this up on the screen here. Zuby Charles goes by the Schwartz Center on Thursday, and this is what he finds: 7 black Escalades lined up at the front of, I'm going to call it a driveway, but it's not really a driveway. It's more like a sidewalk, but they sometimes use it as a driveway. 7 of them, brand new spanking black Escalades, looking in all their splendor there. And Stephen, of course, being the young math whiz of the operation here, starts counting them, and he figures out, hey, there's 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 for each visitor. Very, very cool. So that's what's awaiting the 7 visitors and their families that will be visiting this weekend. And so, Stephen, I'm going to start with you since you added it all up so great. Big visit weekend for the Hurricanes to have their first 7 official visitors of this cycle. Tell us what you're looking for the result of this weekend to be, and go ahead and give us a little preview of the 7 guys that'll be on campus this weekend.
Well, first off, if being able to count to 7 does indeed classify me as a math whiz, then I have greatly exceeded the expectations of my 3rd grade teacher. Thank you, Mrs. Torres. But looking ahead to this recruiting weekend, this is, we're in official visit season now. These OVs start on Friday, and this is what we've all been waiting for. This is what everything to this point in the 2024 recruiting cycle has built up to. We saw the first 5 months of the year really be used to kind of set, these first 5 months were supposed to be the setup months, and June and July, the official visit months, are supposed to be whenever Miami comes in and they clean house. Miami's batting cleanup. This is where your money is going to be made. I think that it's fair to expect some commitments to come rolling in now that we're in the summer months as well. And in terms of what I'm looking for, we're at the point where Miami needs to, their one goal needs to be to have these kids thinking in their head, yeah, I'm ready to commit right now whenever they leave campus. Of course, these kids, a lot of them are taking, or a lot of them aren't going to just be visiting Miami. A lot of these guys are pretty much everyone is visiting multiple programs, save for a couple of commits like Judd Anderson and I believe Chris Wheatley Humphrey, and then Juan Minaya is another one. But this is the moment where Miami needs to come in. They need to blow these kids away. They need to show them everything that Coral Gables can do for them. And these kids, at the end of the day, need to be leaving Miami thinking to themselves, I can definitely see myself playing here the next 4 years. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear, a couple of silent commitments during some of these official visits, kind of the way that, we heard Judd Anderson commit and we heard Juan Minaya commit kind of silently, telling the coaches a few days earlier and then waiting some time before coming out and announcing it on like a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. I think it's probably pretty fair to expect some of that. But in terms of what I'm looking for home runs. There's 7 Escalades for 7 visitors, which means you better be hitting 7 home runs.
All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. There's 4 4-star recruits coming in this weekend. There's 2 3-star prospects coming in. And then out of left field, we threw in a junior college cornerback Demetrius Freeney, who there had been some speculation he would be visiting in a week or so, but he moved up that visit to this weekend. And probably since he's a JUCO kid, maybe would be the most likely to make a decision this weekend. But, we'll see what happens. So let's start with the 4 stars first. You got Kamarion Franklin. He's a 4-star defensive lineman from Lake Cormorant, Mississippi. You got Draylon Miller. He's a 4-star wide receiver from Silsbee, Texas. You got Jeray Hawkins, a 4-star wide receiver from Wheeling, West Virginia. And you got James Nesta, a 4-star linebacker from Cornelius, North Carolina. Conspicuous in those 4 stars is nobody from South Florida, guys. And, we've been talking about this for months. It's becoming fairly obvious that Miami is going to have to do the heavy lifting in recruiting this year from out of town. It's not your typical South Florida year. Azubi, you've made the rounds at so many of these South Florida high schools in the past few weeks, and got to see a lot of these local kids up close. In walking away from that and now seeing such a concerted effort going to the out-of-town recruits, and remember a couple of years ago when he was at Oregon, Mario Cristobal signed the top player in 9 different states. So this is a head coach that knows how to recruit from out of state. Are you at all surprised that South Florida is not having a more primary presence in this first recruiting weekend?
No, not really, because it's something that we kind of always have thought about or knew about when the 2024 cycle really came in the spotlight. I remember when they initially, re-ranked the 2024 class, and I was just going through the list, and I was like, not too many guys from South Florida. Obviously, we have the Jeremiah Smiths, JoJo Traders, even Chance Robinson that sits in, the mid 100s. But besides those, big names, there's not too many guys in that, elite group coming out of South Florida this cycle. Not saying we're lacking any talent in the area, just, not big names that we had last year with Brandon Innes, Hakeem Williams, guys like that are, solidified top 25 prospects. But I'm not surprised. Obviously, just like you said, Mario has recruited the number 1 player in 9 different states during his time at Oregon. So seeing him, you could kind of branch out. And we saw it throughout the recruiting cycle when they're building up. You see them offer guys from the DMV area, go out west, go up north, go out to the West Coast as well too. So you just see them, reaching out to different places, not just kind of relying on that South Florida talent. And I feel like that is a good thing, just not relying on your backyard, reaching out, because there's obviously talented kids all around the country, but not too surprised, not seeing, the official visit list covered with guys from South Florida, with Miami and Broward County, or Dade and Broward County, my apologies.
Okay, the Hurricanes have 2 of their top running back targets coming in back-to-back weekends. This weekend, you got Kawan Lacy. He's a 3-star from Lancaster, Texas. Next weekend, you'll have the number 1 2024 running back, Lacy Gibson, coming to campus for an official visit. Lacy, Stephen, is kind of an interesting guy. I mean, obviously a decent player, but he has made it clear that he's very interested in the Hurricanes. He's going to take official visits, though, to 6 different programs here, most of them this month. He's hoping to announce a commitment before school starts district play in September. Your thoughts on Lacy coming in first and then Gibson coming in, and would Miami, you think, be interested in both of them?
That really is a good question, because right now Miami is not getting anyone to campus for an official visit who they don't want on their team next year. We talk about, the board and, the list that Miami has. Bottom line, if you're taking an official visit to Miami, if Miami is giving you one of those 56 spots, they're serious about you and they want you in Coral Gables. So it's fair to start wondering to yourself, hey, if Kawan Lacy is really blown away by Miami, and this is a guy who they've graded very highly and who, they've recruited pretty hard. If he's blown away by Miami and the Hurricanes start thinking to themselves, hey, man, this is a guy who we really want. And then Lacy's thinking to himself, man, I'm ready to commit. A lot of June is about seizing the moment. And like we kept on saying, we expect there to be plenty of commitments in June. And so I think that if you're Miami and you get a kid on an official visit who, you've paid all, you've spent however much money on, you've, pulled him up in an Escalade, you've taken him to one of Matt Shodell's restaurants, and you're probably thinking to yourself, man, I'm ready to go ahead and take this guy's commitment. But of course, if the number one running back in the country says, yeah, I think I am ready to go ahead and commit, I mean, I think everyone in the country would be taking Jared Gibson right now if he was excited, if he was excited enough to go ahead and commit to your school. So I think that if Miami really does blow Lacy away, the way that I quite frankly expect them to roll out the red carpet for every single one of these kids, then I think it puts Miami in kind of an interesting position. Now, for whatever it's worth, Chad Simmons has been reporting that the gap between Texas and the rest of the pack is maybe a little bit wider than some people thought for Jarrett Gibson. However, anytime that Mario Cristobal gets a kid to campus for an official visit, as I've said before, I think that gives Miami a fantastic shot. And I am not writing the Hurricanes off as long as Miami has him down here for an official visit.
That's a good thing because you can't count out Mario. He's one of the nation's best recruiters. And it's probably been a little tougher, I would think, at Miami so far than maybe he hoped and maybe expected. But this is a guy that certainly will grind it out in recruiting. And maybe the 5 stars and the 4 stars aren't coming just at the snap of a finger, but he will exhaust every effort right up till the very end. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens here these next couple of weeks with these running backs. We have advanced stories on all these visits on the website. So if you haven't checked those out, make sure you do. And then, of course, we will, as the weekend goes forward, have coverage on all of the visits as well. All right, I've made it through almost 12 minutes of show here without letting Matt Shodell speak, which is a good thing. And we're keeping the transfer portal out of the conversation. I pleaded with Matt, please do not discuss the transfer portal this month because this month is all about these traditional recruiting visits. So that means Matt has nothing to talk about. So let me just go ahead and jump past him and on to the next subject, which is going to be the baseball team. And I mentioned that Zuby was on campus taking pictures of the Escalades that we showed you earlier, but that's not what he really was there for. It was media day for the NCAA baseball regional, and Zuby was there. Got to speak to Gino Damari, the Miami coach. He got to speak to some of the Miami players. Got to speak to the main team that will be meeting the Hurricanes tonight at Mark Light in the opener of the regional. So Zuby, go ahead and give us the scoop on the baseball regional and what everyone's expecting to see happen this weekend.
Yeah, just first off with Coach DeMar and the Hurricanes, they're just really excited to be back home. Obviously, hosting a regional in the NCAA tournament, having that whole fitted in is something they're really excited about. And when I spoke with Blake Sear, he just pretty much said, hey, we've done really well at home, so we just want to continue to put on a great show for our Canes fans and have everyone come out and enjoy, this regional. Obviously, their goal is to get out of the regional, get to the super regional, but their main focus right now is on Maine. And after talking with the Maine players and the coaches, they're just kind of happy to be here. Their first time in the NCAA tournament, and I believe since 2011, they were like talking about, oh, the weather's beautiful down here, it's crazy. Like their guys are just all smiles, and I was like, hey, obviously it's time to get serious, but you guys are enjoying the time. Like honestly, we're just here to play baseball and have fun, and the results will come regardless. But it was just kind of not odd seeing how happy they were, but they were just a team that's kind of, hey, we have nothing against us, win or lose. We're just trying to prove a point and show the world who we are. So I feel like that kind of might go against Miami's Miami at all, because you just have a team that doesn't care right now. Obviously they care, but they're just playing carefree. They're having fun and just enjoying their time. So I don't know if Miami comes in way too serious and this main team is just trying to have fun and things go out of whack. Obviously baseball is a crazy sport, so you never know. But just my biggest takeaway is Miami's really happy to be at home and Maine's just happy to be in this tournament. So we'll see how that matchup plays out later today.
I hope they go to South Beach. I hope they hang out there in the sun for a few hours. I hope they spent last night at Club Live. They can enjoy themselves all they want here in South Florida. The Miami Hurricanes must win this regional. They had a tough time last year, very disappointing exit from the regional. This is the year that they are looking to make amends, and it's an important weekend for Canes baseball, and hopefully they get it done this weekend at Mark Light. We will have coverage for you on that the entire weekend. All right, so for those of you, I'm going to take a pause here because I can tell Matt's a little bit like a fish out of water here. That we're 15 minutes now into the show, and he has not uttered a single word. So Matt, it's Friday. It's South Florida. Where should everybody go eat this weekend?
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you again on Monday. Well, that was a good show, guys. I mean, I think it was the best show we've done yet. So I guess we'll talk later today.
Where do we go to dinner? We want to know where do we go dine this weekend in South Florida?
I went to Perry's Steakhouse for a nice Wednesday night meal when it's not too crowded. They can wait on you hand and foot. As a matter of fact, the waitress came over and can you say waitress now or are they all waiters? I don't know how this works. I don't know. Whatever. The waiter came over.
Waitress.
You can still say waitress? I don't know the rules.
If you want to use a generic term, it's servers.
A random person came over, and I was talking to my wife and son with me, and I was talking about they had this, I don't know, they had some weird special menu, and I was talking about the leek soup, and this person said, oh, you're thinking about getting the leek soup? And I said, yeah. And the person said, I'll go get it. I'll be right back. And started actually going just to get my soup. We had just sat down a minute earlier. And my wife had to yell, don't get him any soup. We don't want to watch him eat. We'll all order at the same time, It was a little weird. But Perry's is great. I'm not going to downplay Perry's. I do recommend getting appetizers for your main courses at Perry. That's my main takeaway. Mainly because the main courses are highly expensive and the appetizers are quite good. That's my takeaway. And by the way, when you guys were ranting and raving on and on about how this amazing visit weekend and everyone's going to commit, you do know there's something different this year than last year when Miami had 11 June and July commitments, which is something called unlimited visits. These people can go to Perry's every weekend if they want to. All these recruits from all over the country. You still are limited per school, but a top recruit may not really want to shut down their recruitment so early if they're not guaranteed NIL money and this or that. They're not limited to 5 visits anymore. They can take 20 visits. If they're a top recruit in the country, which is who Mario Cristobal is targeting, and these guys want to enjoy every single weekend they can go to 16 different amazing meals at the Perry's of whatever town it is or county it is or city it is around the country. That's, the NCAA has made recruiting as difficult as possible for a fan to enjoy, for a reporter to cover. And I assume it's by design to make Matt Shodell unhappy because I used to be so happy, guys. Before we had this show a year ago, I was always smiling. I was happy-go-lucky. Everything was wonderful in the world. And the NCAA ruined everything. It's the NCAA's fault that I look like this.
All right, and Perry's is where? Where is Perry's?
In Coral Gables, in a mall nearby here.
All right, so the Shodell recommendation of the week.
Perry's
Steakhouse.
I give it. Honestly, I give it a 2022 Miami Hurricanes. It's it's average to me. 6-7, 5-7, 7-7, somewhere in that range. If a couple of dishes had gone the other way, maybe an 8-5, 9-4 situation. But I wouldn't say it's the best steakhouse by far, but it just happens to be near my house. My son likes it there, and that's why we went there.
All right, the last thing we're going to talk about today is the continuation of our 50-1 countdown. We are ranking the top 50 post-spring Miami Hurricanes. Today we get to a guy that I was pretty impressed with this spring. We kind of wrestled where to put him. We slotted him in at number 21, Devonte Brown. And Matt, when I watched him in the spring, I liked what I saw. He's a bigger corner, had clearly played some college football. I know Zuby was impressed with him as well. But the Hurricanes are still shopping for corners. They got a junior college cornerback in on an official visit this weekend. Is that an indictment on Devonte Brown, or is it an indictment on the guys behind him, Matt? or alongside him rather.
We asked Jimmy Ladai about Devonte Brown during the spring, and it wasn't the most effusive praise. It was more what Devonte has to do to get better. I don't know if they were trying to light a fire under him or whatever. The general message was that he's pretty good covering deep balls, but not so good on sort of with mechanics and technique on the other stuff. So yeah, I'm sure it's an indictment of the entire cornerback room. They've already taken 3 transfers and they took a 4th. What does it say that you take a chance on an Iowa cornerback and 2 months after you take him, he's already basically washed out of the program?
Terry Roberts, who went back into the transfer portal yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
we're just talking about him on the last Good Morning CaneSport about how I think it was Azubi that brought up how terrible he looked in spring practice, and then the next day he's out of here, gone.
Azubi, you got him fired.
You got him fired, Azubi.
But here's my point. Fans like to jump on me and whatever. I don't really care. But it's not a case where the coaches are constantly making the perfect decisions. Everything the coaches do is correct. It's okay to second guess things. And in this case, they made a mistake. But to their credit, they quickly rectified it. They took a guy they thought could help them. They quickly realized whoever evaluated him, I'm doubting it was Alonzo Highsmith, whoever said, yeah, let's take this guy based on what they saw. I don't think he showed up 2 months after the season ended and looked like a different guy. They just missed. They made a mistake. Whatever film they watched, maybe it was the huddle highlights. They didn't look at the entire season. I don't know. They made a mistake. And to their credit, because it doesn't look good when you take a transfer and then say a couple months later, we made a mistake. Like that just doesn't look good for a program. So to their credit, they're willing to do that. That's something a lot of programs and coaches would not be willing to do, because it's basically saying we made a bad evaluation on this player. And it wasn't like from 2 years ago where he didn't develop. It's like we just looked at his film and he came here with basically the same exact body frame and technique and speed and everything we saw on the film, and we realized we made a mistake. Like that's okay. And that's okay.
He played a lot at Iowa last year.
Correct. But again, and I said it at the time when they take some of these guys, if you're going against a different level of receiver, and I know Iowa played some decent teams, but that's not you don't see a ton of these 4-4 receivers just speeding past you with the Iowa opponents. Those tend to be the heavier, bigger teams focused on a heavy run game, big offensive linemen, that sort of thing. And when you get into the Miami atmosphere with 4-3-5, 4-4, 4-4-4, big guys who can run 4-4-5, it's a different animal than sometimes what some of these corners faced. And it's just hard. That's why sometimes when Gary goes on and on about a guy's huddle film, well, who was he going against? Who was he going against? Because if the guy's a cornerback and he's covering someone who runs a 5.0 40 and he gets 3 interceptions in the game, yeah, you can't see necessarily on a huddle film he's running a 5.0 and the other guy's running a 4.5. You can sort of get a sense of it. But sometimes until you see someone in person actually playing against your guys, you don't know. And that's why I just say to Hurricanes fans who are just constantly bashing me for bashing some of the decisions that I see made out there that I don't love, including the transfer portal, okay, with some of the guys.
Oh, no, I thought we were going to.
And the way the numbers work out.
I
wasn't going to mention it, except I know how crazy it makes you. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up every show from now on. If you want me to wake up early, every show I'm going to mention it from now on through eternity. So I highly recommend you use the 2 gentlemen below me instead of me. And I will happily wake up at 7 in the morning and, send out tweets and do my work and whatever. That's how I want to operate. And so anyway, so look, if you're a fan out there, and somebody posts something that they think a coach did wrong on the message board, they always get attacked. Which I find kind of funny because some of that stuff ages pretty well for some people. It's sort of like when somebody posted, fire Gino DiMare when Miami was losing in baseball in one of the ACC games or something, or, fire Jim Larinaga was coming up early in the season in basketball, Those don't age very well. And sometimes some of the negative posts actually age well, and sometimes some of the positive posts age well. But the whole point of the CaneSport message board is to have a conversation and to let both sides talk. And some people don't want to let me talk, or they don't want to listen to me.
We have plenty of airtime on this show.
Yeah, well, when I say they don't want to listen to me, I'm talking about my wife and my kid. My kids, but one of them's away right now, so my kid. They don't want to listen to me. So this is my only outlet for people who actually maybe listen to me. I doubt there's any listeners left out there in YouTube world. But if there are, I would urge you to allow negativity to creep into your life. The more negative you are, the happier you'll be, because anything that happens good will just be a pleasant surprise, and you'll be so happy, so happy, I promise you.
Well, at least this time around, you did give them a little bit of credit for jettisoning Terry Roberts, who had zero chance.
I mean,
to play
thank
for the
you.
Hurricanes this
Thank
year.
you. Yeah, listen, you make a mistake.
Zuby was sizing him up in spring practice and was saying, "What the heck's he doing out there? I could be playing DB instead of this guy." But the unfortunate part of it is it gave you an excuse to rant about the transfer portal for a couple of minutes. We just can't get away from that. It doesn't seem. All right, if you like this show, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube, grow our audience. We greatly appreciate it. And more than anything, if you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please head on over. We have a special right now for a short time because it's getting a little late in the year. But you can get the next 3 months up to the start of football season for $1 to come try out our site. If you're not yet a subscriber, and if you want to just jump head first, which we hope you do because your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every day. They fund the Zuby and Stevens dates that they fit in between working, which they do work very, very hard. So they don't have a lot of time for dates. All you ladies out there on the dating apps that want to hit up a Zuby and Steven, they don't have a ton. They don't have a ton of time, but they do have some time, of course. But anyway, so your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every single day, and we greatly appreciate it. Hope that all the Canes fans out there in America, we wanted to unite the entire fan base, come and get on board with CaneSport.com here very, very soon if you're not already. So for Zuby Charles, Stephen Wagner, Mr. Gourmet, Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us. And big visit weekend this weekend, big baseball weekend this weekend, and we will be back on Monday morning with another Good Morning CaneSport to wrap it all up and break it down for you. And on the website, obviously, as the weekend goes forward, you will have complete coverage on all those topics. Have a great weekend, everybody.